Hi, welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today is part 3 of creating a scene. And so we're starting off this episode with the fireplace, which is one of the images from Stacy Yakula for Purple Onions Designs. This is the stone fireplace. She also has another fireplace, and the rug on the floor is from that one. But what I'm doing here is going around the stones with a C2 to give some shape, some depth to those stones where they would be shading each other, and also where they might have some crevices, and getting just a basic idea of the shadows. Coming in now with the C1, blending those out just a little bit. I'm not going to cover everything yet. I want to keep my light spaces white until I'm ready to get all the way through. This is the W0, and that's just continuing to blend out that C2. And now with the W1 coming in and darkening up around those areas again. And so these stones are just really a combination of cool grays and warm grays. And now with the W2, I'm deciding I can come in and darken up those shadows even more. What's nice about these stones is that it can be very dark inside where they meet together, because they're in relationship to each other. They're fairly large stones. This is the W4, and I'm coming into those, just the deepest part of the crevices, and adding that. You can see I took the cap off of both sides of my marker. My marker was quite full of ink, and so I didn't want it to splot on my paper, and so taking off that other cap relieves the pressure inside the barrel of the marker, and so it's not going to drip. All right, so just coming in with a few other markers, blending things out a bit now, and deepening up those shadows around the opening of the fireplace, and blending that around that opening. I want that to look a little closer than the rest of the fireplace, like it's bumping out a bit. And so I have that deep shadow around it. I will soften that a little bit so it's not so I don't want it to look too much like here's a ring around my opening with the shadows. So that will kind of blend out a little better as we get more shadows in there. So as you can see, I'm coming in again with the W4 and deepening some of those shadows, and that prominent shadow ring around the entryway kind of disappears once I have more going on. I decided to give the tree trunk a bit of a grayer brown to it. So this is the E44, and coming in where I would have those deeper shadows, and kind of capitalizing on that with this grayer brown, and then blending that around that mushroom to kind of clean it up where it's by the tree. And then I'm putting in the stems, making sure I have a nice shadow around that mushroom. And then the stems of the mushrooms are both, again, a W and a C. And now I'm onto those logs, and those are birch logs. And so I want to keep the white birch kind of papery like bark on the outside. And it's just a matter of making sure that the shadows are there between the logs, and then also getting that bark to kind of look like it's kind of papery. So with the E's, I'm doing the inside wood part, but the W's and the C's for the outside. and then shading with the W's and C's for all over those logs. Getting a little darker now in those shadows with the C3. So that's something I tend to do. As I'm learning with Copics, I've decided, okay, I'll start light and I'll go one shade darker until I feel good about where it is. I'm not at that point yet where I say, okay, I'm going to go in at this shade of darkness for my shadow here or there, and so I build it up slowly. And I think once I get more confident with shadows, I'll be able to just go in with a darker to start, but right now I'm not there. So onto this table, it's E21, E23 to shade it, and I think the darkest I get on here is the E25. I'm making sure the shadows show underneath the main part of the tabletop, that the base part is underneath and a little further behind. Also defining the shape of the pedestal, and then rounding that because it's a cylinder, so I want to have shadow on both sides. This table is made out of the same wood as the tree, I think, so it kind of gives a balance to those browns. So the tree in the upper left and the table in the bottom right, and then as those roots kind of spread out from there, kind of balances the composition of the picture. Now I'm adding a little bit of the gray brown. Here's the E44. In reality, this table would probably be much darker because it's on the other side of the chair and away from the fireplace, so away from the light source, but I didn't want it to be too dark. So once I have the table done, I'm cleaning up the wall and the root next to it to make sure that you can see the table and that it's not blended in with that root or the wall. And now I can start darkening up some of the shadows. So I'm working on the floor back in that corner there. That'd be kind of a dark corner, I think. And then out there by the fireplace, just around the edge there. And then in the front corner as well, that's going to be a bit darker, away from the light source, away from our fire. Now it's time to start on that fire. So I know this is no line coloring, but I think I would have stamped this fire a little bit lighter if I had thought about it, because I want to keep this as a real glow, a bright light glow. So it's a Y00, Y11, and I'm not going to make that so that you can't see the lines. I think it's better just to keep it that bright glow. So in the back, that's the light reflecting or falling on the back of the fireplace, and it's kind of more of an orangey glow in there. A lot of times I will Google images to see what they actually look like, and so I Googled a fireplace with a fire in it, and I was surprised there wasn't a lot of the glow of the fireplace coming out from the fireplace. A little bit on the edge of it coming out, but not out into the room so much. So I'm going to keep it like that. This is the soot in the back of the fireplace where it's been, because this fireplace has been used many times. You may be wondering where that fireplace leads to, because that smoke has to come out somewhere. And if you look at the tree above, it's on the one side of the door that goes right up there and out a bit of a hole or a chimney up above our picture. So don't worry, bunny's not going to get smoked out. I mean, if he's clever enough to make this burrow, he didn't forget the ventilation. So, all right, back to our fire. Got birch logs in here, and just coloring them with the same colors as the birch logs that are stacked up next to the fireplace. And then trying to increase that glow on the inside and brighten it up. Today's video focuses on the images that kind of help create this scene, but they're more predominant than the very background. So like the table and the fireplace. And I want to keep these things fairly neutral as well, but obviously our fire needs to have that glow to it and bring the warmth in. You can see this glow is kind of coming out onto the hearth and the ridge of stones around the fireplace. And at first I was a little, this was too bright. It was looking kind of like it wasn't a nice glow. It was just on the stones. And I thought, how am I going to kind of incorporate this in more with the stones? And I know that we use the colorless blender not to blend, but I came in with a colorless blender, you'll see, but of course I was waiting. I wasn't sure what I was doing yet, so I was just fixing up everything else inside the fireplace, kind of deciding how is this glow going to start looking like it's part of the stones. And then here it is. The colorless blender actually really did help blend it into the stones. Now, colorless blender is really an eraser for Copics. It pushes the ink away, but it worked. It worked for this. So here is the candle starting. It's got the same colors for the glow of the flame. And it's not a huge light source, so its glow is not going to really fill this room. I remember as a kid watching Little House on the Prairie, and Laura and Mary would be up in their bunk, and they'd put a candle on, and all of a sudden the whole room was lit up. So the magic of TV, right? All right, well, this candle has some shadow to it under where the wax is coming down, and on the candle itself, a little bit of a glow on the top part of that wax. And here I am using that colorless blender again to just kind of soften out that glow. And now we're working on the little light outside the door. So this is all lighting at one time, and getting the inside of that lantern to take shape. Just defining that a little bit, but we'll come back to this one. Decided to start on those mushrooms, and I was very careful at first to go around all the little dots, but by the end I'm just going right over them. So with an R30, an R32, and an R35 will be my darkest here, but I didn't want them to be too bright red, because I didn't want them to detract from the main part of the image, the bunny. So I've given them a little bit of a softer red color, pinkier or peachier color, and then just blend that out. And I didn't even come in with the white gel pen to add back in those dots on the mushrooms. I didn't think it needed it. I didn't want that to then bring your focus up to those mushrooms. And I started these a little later because I wasn't sure quite what I wanted to do with them. I wasn't sure if maybe I'd make them mushroom colored mushrooms, you know, the kind of the E40s. But I decided, yeah, a little color is not a bad thing up here. And then the same color on the top part of that lantern, giving it a little bit of texture up there because it has kind of a shingle roof type look to it. And then clean up the tree around the lantern. Get those, and it helps to clearly define that lantern a little bit better. And then for the inside, because it's glass, you can kind of see the tree behind it, so I gave it a little bit of the E21, some E23, and blend that in just so that you could see that the tree is behind it. And then make sure that we have a good glow there. And now I can start on giving those mushroom stems a little bit more depth so that they match up with the depth of those mushroom caps. And then a little bit of shadow underneath the snow and on the sides just to warm them up a little bit so they're not, again, so I don't have too bright a color here. And then I can even darken up those stems a little bit more where they're underneath the caps and on the edges there to give a little bit more shading. And then deepen up that red where it seemed like it was going away. I hope my commentary is helping. I feel like I'm announcing golf, like I'm a golf announcer. It's very slow, but that's the nature of this coloring. And so here I finally put in that door frame, and now I'm just gonna shade around it, clean that up a little bit more. And I had said earlier on the last video that I didn't want to color that frame right away because I wanted it to be as light as possible. And if I had put in my lightest color, I tend to blend things away a little too much, so kind of kept that out. And now I'm just darkening up and giving more depth to the door and around the tree where it needed it. Give it a little doorknob. And that's it for today. I hope you will join me again next time when we color the bunny and his chair and rug. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.